Great lawyers don't always know how to build great law firms. Let's change that. Join Ben Gideon as he shares hard-won lessons from building his own financially successful law firm and practical insights from top law firm entrepreneurs, business consultants, and more. This is a podcast for lawyers, by lawyers. Welcome to Elevate, Build, and Grow Your Law Firm. Produced and powered by Law Pods.
Today's episode of the Elevate, Build, and Grow Your Law Firm podcast is brought to you by Supio. I just spent an hour doing a webinar with the Supio folks. It was great. We had the head of business development and also one of the lawyers from Texas who's been an early adopter of Supio and walked through some case models of how you use Supio to put a case together. It was very, very impressive. I would encourage everyone who doesn't yet have an AI platform for their law firm, if they're a plaintiff's side, personal injury, medical malpractice type of law firm, check out Supio and get the demo. Our podcast today is also brought to you by Vision Spark. Vision Spark is the company that helps law firms and other businesses find seconds in command. You know any seconds in command, Jeff?
That would be me. It's exactly where I want to be.
When I think of number two, I always think of Jeff.
Thank you, Ben. I appreciate that.
We have Vision Spark to credit for the search process that led us to Jeff, and then Jeff has led us to the holy grail of, it appears, to doubling our revenues in less than a year of your time at our firm. So it's all paid off very well. Anybody who needs a second in command like Jeff, I would encourage you to talk to Vision Spark. Our podcast is also brought to you by 1% for Planet. 1% for Planet, folks, is the organization that allows you to contribute 1% of your gross revenues to environmentally conscious nonprofits. Our firm has done that. It's a great organization that's allowed us to partner with some really terrific nonprofits in Maine and throughout northern New England, and we really would love to have other firms join us in that. And if you do join us in 1%, please reach out to us and we'll give you a plug on the show.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Elevate, Build, and Grow Your Law Firm. I am Jeff Wright, Chief Operating Officer at Gideon ASIN, as always joined by owner and founder Ben Gideon. Good morning, Ben.
Hey, Jeff.
How are you?
Good morning. What's new in your world?
Oh, a little bit of everything. It's a hectic time here, but all in good ways. We're looking to bring on a new litigation attorney. We've done an internal promotion, one moving into a legal assistant role, so we're trying to fill their role. I know you and Merrill are in the middle of trial prep, and we just closed out the first quarter, and yeah, it's been a good start to 26. You look a little haggard.
This is my pre-trial look. I usually, it's like playoffs in the NHL. I don't shave for a period of time.
Oh, jeez.
To get myself in the right mindset.
Good. I like that.
Yeah.
We're very lucky to be joined today by Conrad Saam, owner, founder, president of Mockingbird Marketing, which is really, in a nutshell, a digital marketing firm focused on law firms. And I know there's a lot more to it than that, Conrad, but welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Thanks for having me. It's nice to be, at least virtually, back in Maine. I spent my college years up in Waterville, and so
Nice.
really enjoyed being in Maine whenever I can get a chance.
So you're Colby College?
Colby College, yep, 96, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
Not sure I could get in today.
Not sure anyone can afford it today. It's a great school.
None of us could get into any colleges today. I've been going through this with my own kids, and it's just incredible to see what this process is like.
Yeah.
So, Conrad, I think for the listeners out there that may not be familiar with you or familiar with Mockingbird, I think giving
Sure.
us kind of a quick rundown and maybe your evolution from Avo into what made you, decide to go out on your own and probably do it better.
Yeah. Well, so I was very lucky back in 2006. I got contacted by Headhunter, who was recruiting for this startup called Avo. Actually, it wasn't even called Avo at the time. And I went into this role. I knew a little bit about SEO at the time, which was a lot more than anyone who interviewed me. So I looked like I was a genius during the interview. And at the time in 2006, no one was doing this stuff. My first ever presentation was to the injury board, 400 lawyers in the room, and my prezo was called The Death of the Yellow Pages. And I was trying to convince people that the internet was kind of the wave of the future, and the audience hated me. But the other thing that happened, because Ava was super well financed, is I got to play with all of the people, and it was a small group of people who knew SEO at the time. So I worked with Vanessa Fox, I worked with Rand Fishkin, I had, dinners with Danny Sullivan and Matt Cutts. Like, it was a very, very small community. And no one knew anything. And so it was very easy. That's not true. Avo became the #1 directory on the web because we had access to these great people, and they taught me a lot. And it was a very, very cool time. Over time, I enjoyed those talks to lawyers, explaining how the internet worked, explaining things like title tags and meta descriptions. And I mean, it was really, really simple back in the day compared to what it looks like today. And I found that I liked helping small firms grow. Like, I'm an immigrant. My dad started a company in the US. There's a nobility of the American entrepreneur. I love that. That is kind of my reason for being, and being able to help firms grow, businesses grow, like be able to afford the Colby College or the house on the lake. Like, that's a part of what we get to do. And that's such a cool privilege to be a part of. And over time, I decided I wanted to work directly with firms instead. And then the SERPs changed. The search engine results page started shifting. And it wasn't just SEO, it was pay-per-click. And then it wasn't just pay-per-click, it was also the importance of websites. And then social media came on the scene. And then we had LSAs, and now we've got AI. And so it's become massively complex as opposed to like, here, change a title tag, and all of a sudden you're ranking #2 instead of number 22. And so the need for a sophisticated understanding of how all these chess pieces work together for an individual firm situation, I find that super, super fascinating.
That's great.
We've obviously been grappling with a lot of those issues and learning a lot as we've evolved in our firm's growth over 5 years. And it does seem like the world has changed tremendously, even between when we opened our doors and today.
Yeah.
What are the kind of top line cutting edge things that are going on right now? What's the hot stuff, the stuff that people should be paying attention to today?
I think, so there's cutting edge and bleeding edge, right? And so bleeding edge is where you're experimenting with stuff that is just kind of fanciful and stupid. Cutting edge
What would
is
that
kind
be?
of, there's been a lot of stuff out there, right? So like, I mean, there's things that pop up, like we're gonna get really excited about this, and we're gonna get really excited about that, and like, and then they kind
The
of
next shiny
disappear.
object kind
The
of
next
thing.
shiny. This is the shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
Where we're living right now in the last, it's not even 12 months. It's the last 6 to 9 months. What I will call cutting edge. And I do not think everyone needs to live on the cutting edge. I think that's really, really important to understand. We are now living in a place of perpetual change. Okay. And it's not like we can get this system all set up and it's going to be perfect. We're going to run it for the next 3 years. This is a pace of perpetual change. And so I think law firms break into kind of 3 major buckets. There is the law firm that has the internal asset and capacity and interest in being a part of that perpetual change. Okay. Are we playing with agentic AI? Are we working with OpenClaw? Are we like, what are the things that we are experimenting within our own firm to figure that out? So you have that group. You have the next group that are living it. And I don't think this is a bad way to be, that are living in a place where it's like, we're actually doing things the way they have been done, and it's working. By and large, it's working. In the background, especially in the marketing realm, things are changing somewhat, but we're going to rely on third-party vendors. We're going to rely on, I'll give an example. We're going to rely on call rails, listening in AI technology to inform us how our own stuff is working, as opposed to we're going to build it ourselves. Okay. And then the third bucket of firms, and again, this is okay. It's okay to be in this place. The third bucket of firms is going to rely on a vendor completely to provide those solutions, right? And so they want to practice law, they want to be the lawyers, and they're going to rely on a Mockingbird or someone like that to provide all of that as one source. And so I think you need to understand, you don't have to necessarily be aspirational to move up that kind of hierarchy, but there are 3 different ways that firms are operating. And right now, I think I would advise a firm to think about that. Do we want to play in that world of perpetual change internally, right? Is that the business that like, is that the ethos of our firm? Or do we want to like really focus on law and have a really trusted partner that's going to run that for us? Or is there something in between, right? And it's not a change. What I'm talking about is a structural change internally within the firm, as opposed to like local service ads just came on the scene, right? Like it is the way firms choose to operate. And I don't think there is necessarily a bad way.
Conrad, you had mentioned back in 2006, you were trying to convince everyone, for lack of a better term, yellow pages are dead, the internet's the way to go. Are you finding in 2026, you're having that conversation, but talking more about AI? Is the AI that much of a revelation and as the internet was in 06?
It's interesting, but there's no backlash. Right? The backlash was like, I remember back in 2006, Avvo rated lawyers. You could leave a review for a lawyer on Avvo. This is before you could do it on Google. This is before you could do it on anywhere. And the legal industry was up in arms. How can you possibly offer an opinion about the quality of legal work for a law firm? The legal, like, they blew their minds, right? And so there was a backlash and a pushback. And at Avvo, we were always like, we focus on the consumer and the lawyers will follow. And that worked for a while. Today, I remember when I remember the day I was watching Michigan football with my friends, ChatGPT launches, and we're like, holy crap, this is amazing. We literally stopped watching the game and started messing around with this thing, right? Everyone gets it. Everyone gets that you can go to Claude and have it write a paper about what to do when you're in a car accident. Like, it's not something that needs to be demonstrated. Everyone sees it. It's not a question. My kids are telling me that, like, Dad, stop using ChatGPT. Like, it's outdated. Like, we all get it. We know that it's here. We just don't know. There's so many ways to use it. We don't know where to start in many cases. So yes, it's revolutionary, but there's no convincing.
Currently, when you're advising law firms, I mean, I'm assuming you have lots of law firm clients and they're in different types of practices. They are trying to increase their footprint, attract more business, get more cases in whatever, discipline they're in. Where are clients coming from today? Predominantly, are they still finding firms through organic search? Are they predominantly coming through pay-per-click? Are they calling lawyers they see on TV? Are there metrics, or have they moved to AI queries, to find their lawyers? How are people finding them now?
So this is a really important answer, and the digital agency industry is so far behind in our thinking on this. The answer is it's different for every firm. But to contrast it from 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it was Google, right? It was always Google, and that was kind of the predominant play. That has changed. And so let me break two things out. It's really important to understand direct response and brand work. Okay. Direct response is, I want to buy some, AirPods. I look up AirPods. I click on an ad for AirPods. I go to a site about AirPods. I buy the AirPods, and the digital agency can track that all the way through. And now I can say my cost per client for the AirPods was $27. The AirPods were worth $100. That's a good ROI, right? Simplistic, basic, pre-calculus, simple undergraduate business degree can do that. Actually, my children can do that, right? If you have the stuff set up correctly. That still happens. Like, let's not forget, that still happens. LSAs are really big. If you're running LSAs and you're running them well, like, they can be a big part of your business. Pay-per-click is still really big. Some SEO work is direct response, right? So, like, let's not discount that. But what's really happening now, the firms that are winning over and over again have a omnichannel approach to their marketing, which basically means I'm going to run all of the things that make sense for my business. I'm going to do local. I'm going to do organic. I'm going to figure out how to play in the AI game. I'm going to run LSAs. I'm going to do radio. I'm going to do really clever digital retargeting. I'm going to put my ads on the TV from people who have actually expressed interest or who fit my certain profile or whatever that might be. Super targeted brand advertising. And I'm going to, I need a better way to talk about this. I'm going to touch those prospective clients 10 times, 20 times, 120 times before they actually call me. That's brand work. And if I do this really, really well, I'm not just going to get them to know that, like, this is Coke, the brand. I'm going to get them to like Coke. I'm going to get them to like the law firm. And this is the win. If I can get consumers in my target market to say, I like this law firm, you have won. Like, let's not forget, people hate lawyers, but they might like their lawyer. And they might like you because you're like, I said this to you when you started out, you're wearing an LL Bean jacket. Like that's the right way to build affinity in Maine, right? That resonates. That means I'm local. How do I get someone with really clever branding and really solid positioning, not just to know who I am, but to like who I am? And if you win that game, you win. Like you win. That is the win. But it's omni-channel. It's everywhere.
I had two questions about that. One is, you said it depends to some extent on what type of law firm or practice you have. Are there particular categories of law practices that there's different channels that seem to drive business for? So for instance, if you had a criminal defense practice or an immigration practice or, I don't know, family law, contracts, whatever, is that different from, say, a personal injury or medical malpractice practice? Or is the guidance you just gave universal? Does it apply universally to all types of practices?
So you need to understand your audience, and then you need to understand how digital can work with a targeting perspective. So let me explain what I mean by that. Family law. The question that I've got for 20 years about family law is, I need more qualified clients. What does that really mean? I need to get people in rich areas of the neighborhood. Okay? That just is. How do I isolate my digital targeting so I'm only serving ads up to a wealthy part of a city? In some places, that's really easy. Outside of Denver, it's really easy for me to understand demographically, this is a wealthy part of Denver and this is not a wealthy part of Denver. In Philadelphia, it's block by block, right? You can have a really, really expensive block and then next door, it's not. And so like, even those nuances become really fascinating. Let's say you do immigration. Immigration is a great example, right? So you're ending up with doing a lot of language targeting. How do we do that? Like, and in the Hispanic market, like there's a lot of referral based business. How do I inculcate my brand into that community, right? So that becomes really important. You have some things that are very, very long purchase cycle. So the client that we have that has done the best in AI from generating clients does franchise law, right? Why franchise law? Because if you're thinking about building a franchise, you're doing a ton of research. It's not the iPods. I want to buy the iPods today. I'm trying to decide whether or not I'm going to make this investment in my future and what franchise to research. So there's a ton of research that goes into this over a long period of time. That client, right, that prospect is going to rely on AI. That prospect is going to be really important to stay in front of that prospect over a long period of time. So retargeting becomes really important. How do I do retargeting digitally? How do I put retargeting on OTT? How do I make sure that I can stay in touch with this? That, like, getting that prospective client's email is really important, because now I can do a drip campaign over the next, 6 months where this person is going to be considering, should I buy a McDonald's franchise or a Taco Bell, right? So like the purchase cycle becomes important. Trademark, right? Trademark, like you should be really big in LinkedIn, right? Because you have a very, very finite group of professionals that you want to be in front of on LinkedIn. I can do my targeting there. So it's really about targeting. Who's mine? It's personal injury. Everyone gets in accidents, right? Everyone gets in accidents. And so the targeting is very, very broad, right? People talk about, geofencing, hospitals and stuff like that. But by and large, everyone gets in accidents, right? So there's less
everyone gets in accidents and nobody gets in accidents. And you don't know which one it's going to be until they've been in one. So you don't have any pre-existing market for your services.
That is exactly correct.
I mean, that creates a particular challenge for this type of business, because you don't have that long cycle where people are actively researching. They have some kind of trauma or event, and then I assume their decision cycle is very short and often just based on some memory they have of an easy to remember phone number or a catchy jingle that reminds them who the lawyer is who does this kind of stuff. But yet a lot of people seem to be, I would say, offended or put off by that style of marketing. And there's the billboard ads, the constant, catchy or kind of lowbrow jingles you see for plaintiff trial lawyers, people that don't need those services don't react well to that. And it tends to portray the industry in a poor light.
That's
so
right.
I was just curious about your idea that you want people to like you, but then you have these lawyers out there running these, really dumb ads that show them doing asinine things that are really the butt of a joke, not something that people would take seriously or like, but they may be memorable, right? So comment on that if you can.
So I have a hierarchy on this. You have brand awareness and then you have brand affinity. Brand awareness is actually really easy to build. Like anyone who has kids know that your kids know a bunch of jingles, right? The progressive jingle, like they know these things. They are stuck in their head. They hate them, but it's there. That's brand awareness. And in many cases, and this, I'm just a craven marketer. I just want my clients to win. If that is what creates memorable stuff, great. That's a win. Your brand awareness, like just brand awareness in and of itself is a benefit. So let me give you an example of that translates into digital. We know that pure brand awareness drives an increase in click-through rates on pay-per-click. And that increase in click-through rates, whether you like the brand or hate the brand, when you don't need it, it improves your quality score, which then drops the cost per click that you have to pay, and the conversion's higher because I'm familiar with the brand, whether I like it or not, whether it's an annoying jingle or not, like that actually works. My kind of mana of ideal is not just brand awareness, but brand affinity. I like these guys, right? I like these guys, or I like this firm. And that transcends brand awareness from the annoying jingle. You can't have that annoying brand when you have awareness. Let me use the most obvious example. Morgan & Morgan, size matters, right? Like that can throw people off. Like people don't necessarily like that, but it's memorable and there's a positioning behind it and it's meaningful. And when you actually need that service, that's something, if you can remember that, there's positioning in 2 words in the legal industry that you may or may not like, but it's memorable, right? And they make it memorable by spending like Matt, right? And that's brand awareness.
Conrad, I want to just take a step back for a minute. So our podcast is obviously called Build and Grow Your Law Firm. A lot of our listeners are either someone looking to maybe leave a firm and hang their own shingle, or a firm that is entrenched, but they're looking to scale. And usually in both of those scenarios, they haven't done a lot with marketing. I guess from an opinion standpoint, what should they focus on first? Is it B2B? Is it B2C? Is it website development and SEO? I mean, obviously they probably don't have the resources to jump right into every channel. How would somebody in that position start, and what should they focus on?
Let me answer the 2 different markets differently because it's really important to do that. The person hanging their shingle, there are 2 things that you should focus on. Number 1 is the location of your firm, literally the location of your office. How competitive, that is either an asset or a liability. If I put my brand new solo practice right next in the same building as Gideon and I'm a personal injury lawyer, I have just shot myself. I've just taken a bunch of marketing opportunities off the table, right? Conversely, if I can find a place that is high population and no one else, now I have an asset. I can have 5 reviews and all of a sudden I'm showing up in the local results, right? So that is something I would think about. The other thing for that person hanging their shingle, I would triple down on referral marketing, right? This is all about referral. If you do not have a big database, that's a liability. If you do have that database of contacts, whether it's on on a CRM like Filevine, if it's your LinkedIn account, that's like an active LinkedIn profile, that referral business needs to be what you lean into. And ideally, I don't necessarily mean legal referrals where you're losing a third. Like now your cost per case is a third of the value. Like I'm talking about people who are going to send you matters, right, that aren't expecting that revenue share. So that is vital for that person starting out. If you can't do that, it is a slog. On the other side is the firm that wants to grow up and scale. And so I think what I would look at is you probably have an understanding of where your marketing is most effective. You need to have an understanding of where your marketing is most effective. And it will be different for different firms. I think one of the mistakes that agencies make is they're like, here's our silver product and we're going to do 10 blog posts a month and we're going to do these like it's not a bespoke solution for the individual situation that you are in. And I think it becomes really important to have that bespoke approach. Having said that, one of the mistakes that a lot of firms make is trying to be the entire market and appeal to the entire market. And I think one of the things that you can do as a firm trying to scale is focus your advertising, marketing, etc., on a specific target. So, and Maine's not a huge market, but Maine's a great example. You could choose to just be the major law firm in Waterville. You can do that by geography. You can do that by who you appeal to. You can do that by trying to be the local firm, right? Like, we are not Morgan & Morgan. In fact, Morgan & Morgan's in Florida, the antithesis of Maine, right? Or we're really deep in the community and we push don't kick puppies or whatever it might be. Like, where is your personal affinity and how can I find that outside in the community to start building brand affinity for those people? Like, what are you really genuinely into? And just lean so hard into that. Like, there's so many opportunities to not just be gavels and leather-bound books and stuff like that.
What percentage of people do you think are starting to find lawyers using an AI platform?
So it's growing, obviously. And I will push this as, I actually have this data. I'm going to get it roughly accurate. I think right now it is around 3% of what we can track, 3% of, and this is from a Near Media study, but 3% of inbound prospects touch AI. So it's not because of AI alone, but they're touching AI. And that is self-reported. Okay.
Because, well, I mean, if you're searching on Google, you're going to get the Gemini result.
Probably. Right? Depending on what you're looking for and depending on what day it is and depending on your personal history, right? So probably it is going to touch that, right? And again, this is self-reported. So what do I mean by self-reported? So attribution, we haven't even talked about attribution. I think it is very, very important. I talked about all these multiple touches, this omnichannel piece. How do you know which parts of your omnichannel constellation are actually working? The importance of having intake, and I like phrasing it this way. Hey, listen, Jeff, thanks for calling us. Is there someone we should be sending a thank you to? Because we've got a pretty good reputation in the industry and I like saying thank you, right? And that's the open indication to how did you hear about us, right? Oh, no one referred you, but I saw you on Gemini, or I used Claude, or it was an LSA, or these happen all the time. I saw this yesterday. You guys happen to be in the same building I'm in. Right? Like, that was a reason that they called the law firm, right? And like, these things we don't think about when you ask this open-ended questions. You get like surprising answers, right? So one of those surprising answers is self-reported attribution is of course AI, right? Joe Consumer may often call AI Gemini Google or the internet, right? But that's what they think they're using, and that's what we get back as data. Is it perfect data? Absolutely not. None of this is clean. That's the problem with omnichannel, but it all kind of works together.
Need help on a complex personal injury or medical malpractice case? Gideon Asen accepts case referrals and regularly co-counsels with lawyers nationwide on high-value claims. The firm has recovered millions of dollars in cases that competitors turned away because they dig deeper. Ready to learn more? Email bgideon@gideonasenlaw.com to start the conversation. Gideon Asen shares fees as permitted by the laws of each state. Don't let complex cases overwhelm your practice. Elevate justice together with Gideon Asen.
You can think of AI in two different ways from an outreach standpoint. One is that you have direct consumers who are substituting it for a traditional Google search, and they're getting into Claude or into ChatGPT or something and saying, well, what's the best lawyer in Waterville, Maine, and finding you. The other, though, that I worry more about, because we still get most of our best cases as referrals from other lawyers. And in our situation, many of those referrals come from lawyers outside of the state of Maine. They're for cases that may not even be in Maine, but if they are in Maine, they're from maybe somebody who has a connection to Maine, but their brother-in-law is a lawyer in Chicago. They need a lawyer. They call their brother-in-law, and the brother-in-law says, well, let me ask around about who the best lawyer in Maine is, and then they will connect with communities of people. We're well known in most of these communities, and then they'll get to us. My concern is that process where lawyers are going to their communities, where you have your reputation, that part will be circumvented, because the lawyer instead, or somebody who's asked for that question, will get on Claude or ChatGPT and instead just look, tell me who the best lawyer in Maine is, rather than reaching out to their friend or their buddy, because it's quicker, one less step. And so I worry about it substituting not for direct consumer contacts, but to circumvent the normal referral process. And I'm just wondering if that's something you've thought about. And then when we talk about the solution to that problem after that.
So a couple things. Referrals will always be important. And one of the things that we know is that people like that social proof, right? And so let me highlight this thing. You mentioned communities of people who know who you are. Part of your omnichannel marketing needs to be a deliberate and low-cost branding attempt to stay in front of those people all the time. What is your database? How do we just stay top of mind? Whether it's an email campaign, whether it's display branding, whether it's LinkedIn outreach, like it is so important to maintain.
Or a podcast, for example.
Or a podcast. Like this, all of these things become so vital. In terms of a replacement, I think the one thing that we need to recognize, the one thing that seems to be lost is the notion we're approaching AI the same way that we thought about SEO. I'm going into this black box and what it spits out, people, is common, okay? It's so personalized. So it's personalized in really two different ways. Number one, it's personalized based on your history, right? And like Claude knows that I do search and rescue, that I am interested in mountain biking, that I, really love vintage cars, right? Like they know everything about me because of my history. And so what I get and what you get and everyone else gets is so amazingly personalized. Don't forget that. It's not this black box. It's it's how Google evolved to personalization, but at a much deeper level because they know so much more about you, especially if you're talking about Gemini. Gemini knows all the Google stuff about you, and then they know what you're asking it, right? And so like that is so amazingly personalized. The other way that we don't realize how personalized this is, the results shuffle every time. It's a guess. AI is just a guess every single time. So if I search the same thing 10 times in a row, I'm going to get 10 different answers. Okay. And so never forget that the importance of influencing AI or Google or even organic into understanding who you are and what your expertise are and how that combines with the personalized results for someone in Sheboygan for looking for a firm in Maine, that is very, very real. And that doesn't change. Right. And so it's really what pisses me off right now. And these agencies are lying to you, and they know they are lying to you. They will say they'll take a screenshot of who is the best digital marketing agency in legal, and they've trained their version of Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever it is to say their firm. I could make up a firm today, and I could convince ChatGPT that for me, that's the firm that you should represent, right? And now I take a screenshot and I'm like, oh, well, we've won the game. We've backdoored how ChatGPT. No, you haven't. The people who run ChatGPT don't know how it works. They don't know what the results are going to be, right? And so never forget about the personalization of this and the randomness of the answers.
Yeah, it's there's a way in which we're evolving in one sense in terms of the digital data, but I'm always struck when I do those kind of queries in a ChatGPT or Claude, how bad the information is. So, if you're asking it focused questions to identify the top or best lawyer in a different category in a certain geographic region, it will often give you somebody that, if you're familiar with that area, doesn't do that work.
Right.
And in some cases, they've been retired for a decade. In some
Right.
cases, they're not even alive anymore. And so it's just striking to me that this is a technology that purports to be all-knowing. And in areas where you don't know the answer, you can accept it because you don't know any better. But when you're on the ground and you actually know the right answer, it's just striking how bad the information can be. And it's actually a lot worse than just a Google organic search, because that at least has some guardrails, I think, where you might not always get the best person because it's highly influenced by maybe marketing and manipulation by vendors such as you, in a good
That's
way.
right.
But it's
100%
influenced
correct.
by that. But it's at least within a certain parameters of guardrails of correct, whereas AI is just all over the place. And it's just amazing to me because for instance, my firm has a wealth of information to figure this stuff out. I mean, actual results, verdicts, papers, publications, peer, review, all that stuff. It should be able to figure out the difference between that and somebody who retired a decade ago. But in many cases, it can't.
So the interesting thing is, and this is the same thing with reviews, we are so lazy and trusting of technology. Near Media did a survey on reviews. Reviews are amazingly important. People rely on reviews, hundreds, thousands of reviews for a law firm. They also, in the same survey, will tell you that a lot of the reviews are fraud, right? What do you rely on the most? Reviews. What do you trust the most? Not the reviews. And yet they rely on it. It's the same with AI. We trust these machines to understand and know, and it is the extent to which this is, the human behavior is just mad, right? And you know what? I need to call a lawyer. I'm just going to trust what it spits out. That is a fact. It is human behavior that I genuinely don't understand, where we are suspicious. We know from our own experience that the reviews are spam. We know that the AI is garbage some percentage of the time. And yet we're going to make a really, really important decision, like what lawyer to contact. Yes, we are. Sign me up because I'm lazy. It remains shocking to me. Weird human lazy behavior.
And we think the AIs are going to get better determining quality or identifying orders of priorities, or is it just going to get worse as the platforms open up to more direct influence and marketing dollars?
So I think there is. So let me talk about the first lie. The first lie is that I get this all the time. I'm a great lawyer. Google doesn't recognize that. Google doesn't recognize if you're a great lawyer, by the way. Not at all.
They don't really care. Google doesn't really care about that.
It's not in the algorithm. Like, no one's like, oh, well, they do a great job with cases, and they don't care. And so like that is a lie. And then it's a frustration that I've heard from lawyers my entire career, right? Like, Google should recognize how good I am. Well, it doesn't. Nor does it care. So there's two problems with the reliance on AI. Number one, we have this belief, and maybe it is correct and maybe it is not, that AI, and I genuinely am not sure that it is correct, that AI is going to start to be able to understand who's actually a good lawyer. What is a good lawyer? Right? Like, what does that actually mean? Like, how are we going to actually, was this an easy case? Was it a hard case? You think AI is going to be able to figure that out? That's a really, really big step. The other part that is just a reality is there are awful people like me who are going to go out and convince AI that you're a good lawyer, whether you exist or not, whether you're a good lawyer or not. Like, that's, so you're seeing manipulation of results. Like, that's what we do. The marketing industry, like, love us or hate us, and most of you guys hate us, which is fine, but like, our job is to make whatever is making that referral. Like, if I'll use a simplistic tactic, you want to find the best lawyer in Maine. Semantically, how do I do that? I make sure that you guys show up on Best Lawyers, right? It's that simple. Do you get on Best Lawyers because you're the best lawyer? No. But like, a computer reads semantically, and this is overly simplistic. Oh, this is a site all about best lawyers. Well, that's why this might be a best lawyer. It's the same with Avvo. Avvo was really, really big, and then it disappeared. And you know what's brought it back? AI, because Avvo had ratings of lawyers. What, you want to find the best lawyers? Avvo's entire ethos is built on a 1 to 10 scale of good lawyers. And that's a resume score. That's all the Avvo rating is. It's a resume score, but it's something. And so that's why Avvo has come back from obscurity, right? That's how it works, right? And there are people like me who will make sure that you guys have a great profile on Avvo, and we'll fill it out, and we'll do everything we can to get you to a 9.9 or a 10.0. And you bet that a computer that's trying to determine who a great lawyer is wants to find something that scores lawyers on a scale of 1 to 10. And that's the whole thesis of Avvo.
So you're saying we have to play the game.
Play the game, baby. Don't hate the player, hate the game. But like, I can't change the game, but you got to play the game.
I mean, that's the power and sort of simplicity of the Morgan & Morgan model. They just usurp all of that by going direct to the consumer, by putting hundreds of millions of dollars a year into direct to consumer marketing. And so they can craft their message and have it received the way they want it to. And then I think you pointed out that also has a synergistic effect when somebody gets online, because if they're seeing multiple search results, but they recognize one of the brands as familiar, even if maybe not likable, they're more likely to click on it, right?
100%. Listen, I eat McDonald's when I travel. But like, I know it is an inferior product. I know this, but I know what it is and I know what I'm getting, and there's brand awareness there, and like, we're human, we're stupid,
And it's
right?
it's tasty.
Yeah,
It's-
but whether you're in Sheboygan or in Seattle, you're going to get the same consistent product. It's a known
I know
quantity.
exactly what I'm getting.
Yeah.
It is. We are so lazy as consumers. It's terrible.
Give us some positives.
Here, you want a positive?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about what you can do inside your firm. We've been talking about AI and marketing. What you can do inside your firm with AI. And my read for 2026 is there's going to be a small number of big improvements that law firms can make with how they operate inside their firm with AI. I think that's really, really fascinating. I will give you two simplistic examples. I believe, and I've watched this, I'm right about this. This is not a believe, I'm right about this. We talk about intake all the time and how intake sucks, blah, blah, blah. Most law firms underpay their intake people. It is the first experience that someone has. It is expected that it's an easy job. You're just going to read the script and take in the information and pass that on, right? It's actually a hard job to do well. It's a hard job to care about. It's a hard job when you're underpaid for it. It needs to be proactively managed, right? And you need to have someone sitting in and saying, hey, you did a great job on this call, and this one you totally fucked up, right? And so you need proactive management to have a really good intake experience. I believe that to my core. You can do this really well with AI now. Like, I can pick out the best and worst phone calls that came in to my law firm over the last week. And I can identify that Mary does a great job, but John's a jerk and probably needs to be replaced. Or John needs to be coached. Or we can talk about, these were the 5 best calls. You know, we're going to do an intake management meeting every morning or every week. These were the 5 best calls that we had, and these were the 5. I don't have to listen to every single call. I don't even have to listen to any of them. I can just have AI pull out the great ones and the worst ones, and I can have it listen in for, did you say hello? Did you show empathy? Did you use the law firm's name? Did you do a follow-up? Did you ask for their phone number? Did you get their email? That all can be done with AI, right? All of that. So the hard slog of managing intake can be done for you with an agent. Simple. Let me give another example. And this is my personal, like, digital marketing fantasy world. We've talked about this omnichannel touch points, and it used to be that we would draw this pretty little pie graph that was like, this is where all of your business came from, and it assumed this one-to-one correlation. That doesn't work in an omnichannel world. How do I understand, and how can I develop an understanding of all of the touch points that have hit a prospect before they called the firm? Was it just direct response, or did they see my email? Did they mention that they saw my billboard? Did they mention that they called us because, Johnny Smith referred? Like, I can pull all of that out. That can all be done in AI, and then I can work on visualization of that. And now you're understanding, now you have the data to build an understanding of how your omnichannel stuff works. Maybe you find out that the Little League sign that you put up 3 years ago and spent $2,000 a month on, maybe no one ever mentions that, and you start to pull that piece of data out. So it's the ability to look at all these different, I call it touch points, and it's not just the simplistic one-to-one pre-algebra calculus. It's a pattern, right? Those two things are very real at this point in time, and that can be done by a firm. And that's really, really cool.
Yeah, those are both things we've been focused on a lot, the intake side and trying to analyze we recently launched into television and radio and trying to develop a cycle of information that we're gaining about the effectiveness of that. And we're very disciplined about getting that on the intake side and putting it into our system. And I think our marketing guy, he's been working with you, I think, in your mastermind group, which is phenomenal, by the way.
Very smart guy. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't know if we're in category 1 or 2, but we're trying to move toward category 1 of trying to do it internally, but recognizing the importance of having vendors in areas where we don't have expertise, but having at least somebody internally who can understand it at a high enough level that we can navigate these issues intelligently. But what you just mentioned, we're building that out, but it's still at a very state of infancy right now, where all of the information from the channels comes in. And then the idea is that it would be assimilated and analyzed through AI. At this point, we don't have the critical mass of data yet for that to be that useful, but we're hoping to get there and then really be able to make smart decisions about where to put our marketing dollars and where the best ROI comes from. But
so one of the things that's really impactful is statistics and the size of your data set. So this is one of the things that we need to be very cautious about with AI. AI doesn't start with a statistics degree. AI is not thinking about things like your confidence intervals and do I have enough data? It's not really thinking along those lines. So it'll give you a nice pattern on a data set of 4, right? So we need to be very, very careful about this. The other thing that we need to be very, very careful about, and I think there's an opportunity here, is you can just get dirty with the data that you have. Just read through the raw stuff. And I found, and this has happened in the past, but the firms that will spend some time going through the raw data and with a mind, this is a really critical mindset. Often data tells you what you have, but it doesn't really highlight what you're missing. And what I mean by that is I would like to spend more time looking at those. What are my long phone calls that didn't turn into clients, which means they're not showing up in my CRM system? So that data, the most important data is the stuff that falls out of your data set, right? So how do I look at this and be like, okay, this is a great exercise. What are the 10 longest phone calls that we had last month that didn't trickle into our CRM, and why? The why is the peeling. I don't think you can have AI do this. Peel back the onion. What happened to Mary? We have this long call. She's in Maine. She was in a car accident. What happened? Did we not call her back? Did our email bounce? Did she just hate us? Did she not like the person who did intake? What happened? So if you spend 80, marketers like to show up and to the right and success, and so do law firms. And so they're always crowing about what they got. Where did you fall? Spend 80% of your time on the stuff that you didn't get. That's the key to improvement. Obsess over the failures instead of crowing over the wins. And that's the key to really running a law firm super well. And that data falls out by definition, right? It's so fascinating.
No, I like that. That makes sense.
yeah,
I drive our marketing person, Matt, crazy sometimes because we'll go through, we meet all the time and he'll go through, our spend for the week and what our channels and what was running and everything. And I'll say, well, geez, we didn't generate any qualified cases this week. And he's like, Jeff, it's brand awareness. We're doing brand awareness. This isn't lead generation. And, I'm a very black and white guy, and I want to get to the finish line and generate qualified cases. But Matt is very structured and has the defined brand awareness. And I think that gets lost because everyone's looking at the ultimate outcome of capturing qualified cases and lead generation and maybe ignoring how important brand awareness is.
And this is the classic problem of today versus tomorrow, right? And a lot of law firms hamstring themselves by only wanting to invest in things where you can see that direct rate of return, where you can see things turning into cases in a short time period. That doesn't really, it's part of the puzzle. It's a really important part of the puzzle, right? For direct response. But I'll use this as an example. I desperately would like to buy a Ford Bronco. I don't need one, but I would like to buy one. Ford has been marketing to me for probably a decade about the Ford Bronco, and yet I still want one. Maybe one day I buy one, and it would be very simplistic of Ford to be like, oh, well, he clicked on this ad, or he saw my Google business profile for the local Ford dealership, and that's why he bought this car, right? It's not just big ticket items like a car. Coke does the same thing. Coke could turn off all of their branding today and their sales would not fall off for a while. It's not like I see an ad for a Coke and I'm like, well, I never thought of that. I'm going to go buy one, right? And so it's all about this, and which makes analysis very, very difficult, right? So we talk about doing it this way. When you look at all of your marketing activities, you have the direct response stuff where I know they bought this because of this ad. You pull that out. Everything else you do, we call it the BFA, the big average. You take all of the money that you spend, you divide it by all of the goodness that happened, and now you have, for that time period, an understanding of how your brand is working. But it's important within that all of the stuff that you spent to try and understand, does something not show up here? Or does something show up here over and over and over again? You know, does Nancy send us cases every single month and therefore we need to spend more time with Nancy, right? Like that's where you start to look into that constellation of marketing touch points, omni-channel marketing touch points that make a difference, right? And you can't look at it from a month to month or even quarter to quarter basis because that's not how this works, especially if you're in PI.
If you're putting dollars behind TV, radio, and building out a branding campaign, I recognize that depends on how much you're investing in that. What is typically expected in terms of the timeline for when you're going to start seeing the ROI on those dollars?
The answer, as always, is it depends, right? But I don't think you should undertake a branding activity unless you are talking about a year. Don't dip your toe in. So this is the mistake that I see people make. We're gonna do a 3-month radio test. That is not branding. That is a direct response time frame and a direct response mindset. And so if you're going to undertake a branding effort, a year minimum, right? Like we know that the old studies go, you have to see something 7 times before you even remember what it is, right? So what does that look like? This is a very non-scientific answer, but I think the mistake that I see is branding campaigns that are 3 months long, because that's not a thing. That's a direct response time frame.
I think of those as attorney vanity campaigns where they just want to see themselves on TV or see themselves on the radio because it can't possibly be effective to,
That's
put
right.
$25,000 into radio and that's just, you're just pissing away money at that point.
That's right.
So when we got on TV and radio, we did so with a mindset of we're not going to dabble in it. We're going big or we're not going to do it at all. And we're committed to it for the long term because it just doesn't otherwise you're just wasting your time and money. But it would be nice to see the ROI on it. What are we, like 6 months in now? And I mean, we certainly have seen a significant uptake in the phone calls and the inquiries, but has that translated yet into highly valuable new cases? I mean, probably some, but not as many as we'd like. But again, we're really only at the inception of the campaign, so we wouldn't expect that much.
This is just anecdotal from some of my clients. You talk about that mastermind. This is anecdotal from a couple of the firms in that mastermind group. The PI firms, the big cases do not come until you run PI advertising, TV advertising. Right. So you can do a great job with people like me running direct response and even or organic search stuff. But when the big matters, the big cases come with brand awareness. Now, I only know that anecdotally, but that is certainly something that we talk about.
Well, Conrad, it's been great to have you on the pod. You're such a wealth of knowledge and really appreciate you joining us. And also, I really appreciate your mentoring and time you spent with Matt in our office. He's learned a lot from you.
Great guy.
Just been great. Just
Thanks for having me.
Don't challenge him to a jiu-jitsu match.
No, I've seen it. So he was like, "Hey, next time you come up, we'll go snowmobiling." I was like, "Okay, I can do that. We're not doing jiu-jitsu. I like only playing in games that I can win, where I know I've got a competitive advantage. I'm not."
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Conrad, do you want to take the last 2 minutes and maybe talk about where people could find you and, what differentiates you from, your competitors?
I appreciate the offer. My read is there's a lot of bullshit out there. I think there are a lot of agencies, especially in this place of AI, claiming competency. And let's be honest, we're figuring this stuff out. No one has mastered this. We are tinkerers, we are messing with it, we are trying things. And by the way, as soon as you master it, the sands shift under your feet. So I just like calling things out for how they are. I like working with clients where we're sitting on the same side of the desk as opposed to kind of this oppositional approach, which means our job is not to make ourselves look good, it's to make you guys effective. And that sometimes means hey, this did not work. This is not working. So I just like being on the same side of the desk as our clients. And the final piece is think about the importance of omnichannel. Think about if you've been an SEO dominant winner, that's not enough right now, right? This portfolio theory in investing is very true in marketing as well. And I think there's an importance of spreading we talk about playing all the chess pieces, right? So play all the chess pieces. Think about what the next chess piece should be for your firm, not to replace, but to add.
That's great. Good way to end it.
And email or contact for you, Conrad?
I'm easy to find. It's Conrad Saam with 2 A's, Saam. If you can't find me, I'm not doing my job.
Right. That's probably a good point.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much.
It's not like my name's like, Joe Smith, right? I should be findable.
You've got one extra A there.
Extra
But
A.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Conrad. That was really
Thank
good.
you.
We appreciate
Thanks, guys,
it.
for having me.
Thanks for listening to Elevate, Build and Grow Your Law Firm. Share with colleagues if you found it valuable. Remember, building a successful law firm takes discipline, strategy, and determination. But you're not alone. Produced and powered by LawPods.